Hello, I'm Emily Bellet, founder of Vestpod and author of You're Not Broke, You're Pre-Rich, and you're listening to The Wallet. Every week we give you the best tips, guidance, and a good dose of inspiration and motivation to manage your money better. It's time to sprinkle in your finances. Today's episode focuses on setting financial goals for yourself. Only 1 in 6 Brits, 17%, confess to having no defined financial goals, and 80% haven't discussed their financial goals with their bank. Newman, head of NatWest Premier Financial Planning, shares insights and tips on the timing of setting financial goals in order to design the life you want to live. This episode is sponsored by NatWest Premier. NatWest Premier offers 24/7 financial advice and planning from in-house experts, insurance coverage, will writing, and executor services. Whether it's discovering ways to make your money grow or planning your next goal, your Premier manager will help you take your money to the next level so that it serves all your needs. Remember that we are not certified financial advisors. Information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Laura, thank you so much for being here with me today. You just published a press release at NatWest Premier showing that people who set specific goals are more likely to meet them. So I love that. I love, the process of goal setting. And today I thought we could do something quite practical where you could almost like coach me through writing some financial goals. So people listening can, pull out a pen or open like a notes app on their phone and then start really writing their goals and do this first exercise. But Laura, if we just start with, can you just tell me why it's actually important to set financial goals?
It's important to set financial goals for a number of reasons. And I think predominantly it's about knowing what the end destination is. So it's something to aspire to. It's something for you to want to achieve. And people that set goals and write those goals down and actually work towards those are more likely to actually achieve those goals because they can visualize them. So they can visualize something in the future. And maybe things that happen along that roadmap. And it may well be that there are disruptions in the road. But because they visualize that goal and they know that what they want to achieve, they generally try to overcome those obstacles along that roadmap.
I love that you talk about visualization. I think it's something I wasn't necessarily doing, but started to think about, planning for the life I want. I also try to think about the good and the bad, to be honest, when I set my goals, which is always a bit tricky. And it's then how do you translate this vision? And many people can do, I've seen people doing like mood boards where they cut out, how they want their life to be and stuff like that. So there's many ways to do that. But I think visualization, you're right, is such an important step. Do you see a correlation between building wealth and the likelihood of setting financial goals?
Oh, very much so. I think it's the old adage, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So in essence, if you actually set yourself a specific goal, something you want to achieve, like purchasing a property for your children, your grandchildren, in the future from regards to retirement and visualizing that retirement. So what do you actually want to achieve? What do you want to do? What are the really special moments that you really want to achieve in that retirement? And it's when people set those goals, they're more likely then to build that wealth towards actually creating the wealth, but also more importantly, achieving that financial goal.
Yeah, and because wealth and money, we often talk about, having more money, but what's the purpose? Why do you want more money? And it's actually really to achieve your goals. And having these goals means, you have sort of the end goal. You're buying yourself this, security and independence, I guess, from, looking at your life and having a vision for your life.
What we do find is when we talk to clients and they haven't really got anything in mind in terms of a specific goal, in terms of what they want to achieve, like, as I said, purchasing a property, university fees, school fees or school planning or whatever, they don't then tend to achieve it. Whereas if they actually set themselves that specific goal and they, as I've said earlier, they visualize it, they're more likely to achieve it and accumulate wealth to actually ensure that they can meet that particular goal.
And when you start doing this exercise, and I know it's really difficult to set financial goals, especially if you're doing it on your own. Sometimes you don't really know what you want in life. Maybe you think you're too young to think about retirement, to think about school fees, university fees. You think you can't get on the property ladder, and you feel you don't have maybe the money or the headspace to plan. But I think in the process, mindset is really important. And I'd love for our listeners to get in the right headspace to write these goals and then successfully achieve them. Can you maybe talk us through why mindset is important and what frame of mind we need to be and how do we get there?
Yeah, do you know, mindset affects your attitude. So mindset is really, really important. It affects your attitude towards either success and also failure. And it's the shape of that mindset. Now, a growth mindset, as we well know, as opposed to a fixed mindset, is more likely to enable you to achieve those goals. And it also enables you to reflect on any temporary setbacks. You're more likely to have a positive attitude towards challenges and see those as opportunities to grow. So a growth mindset is far more likely to enable you to achieve those goals. So really important as opposed to a fixed mindset.
Yeah, and this book by Carol Dweck is actually absolutely amazing. So if you're listening to this, grab a copy. I have one at home, but it's always good to go back and read these principles because they can very much be applied to money, this growth mindset versus fixed mindset.
Yeah, and I think also developing a good money mindset can help you build stronger financial habits. It creates more financial stability and can leave you feeling better equipped to handle the challenges of the cost of living and so forth with a growth mindset.
And can you tell me what's, I don't think there's like, good or a bad mindset and we tend to judge ourselves and be really tough on ourselves when we start stressing out about money or we have negative beliefs around money. How do you change to like what you think is a better mindset? What are like maybe small steps you can take to think more positively about money, to be able to do this exercise of goal setting?
I think one is face into the reality. It's all about how you plan for those particular goals. Not taking massive leaps of faith, but taking small steps as you go along that roadmap, as I touched upon earlier. I think sometimes if you take too larger steps, what then happens is you become into a fixed mindset purely because you cannot see that opportunity that you want to achieve, that you're actually going to achieve it. So it's trying to do things in bite-sized chunks, enabling you to actually fulfill little steps and fulfill those ambitions.
No, I love that. I love that, breaking your goals into like, smaller steps. Otherwise you procrastinate, you don't get started. So now if we go into like very practically, let's get started. Maybe don't do this exercise if you're feeling stressed or anxious about money, but find a quiet time, a quiet space, pull out a pen and paper. This is how I write my goals, is really switching off all my devices, writing in a quiet space, maybe, to go to a coffee, don't, just leave your home for an hour and work on your goals. And it's about taking one step at a time, really to make our lives better. So we're going to start in different places, but all that matters is that you just stop, don't judge your goals and just write them. Laura, people listening may feel like they have no idea where to start. So could you share maybe the top general financial goals for UK adults according to your research? Because that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think the first and foremost, start an emergency fund. I think life is unpredictable, as we well know it. I think pay off debt is another, in terms of reducing down your debt, specifically in terms of the higher interest rates that we've seen. Saving for retirement in terms of looking at what you want to achieve, when you want to achieve it, who's involved. Striving for home ownership, together with supporting children or grandchildren getting on the property ladder. Some clients we speak to want to start a new business, want to start a new business venture. They want to get out of the sort of the corporate rat race, as one calls it, and they want to actually achieve something that's more purposeful. Paying off the car. Someone might have bought a brand new car, or alternatively saving for a car for their children. A big one is very much around school fees planning, together with college and also university planning. Just saving money and planning for some fun in the future as well, whether that be short, medium or longer term. And together with thinking about later in life in terms of medical expenses and long-term care. But there are also goals in terms of leaving inheritance or alternatively doing something, again, purposeful about gifting to charities as well. So there's various types of goals that a lot of our clients actually want to achieve, and we help them to achieve that.
So I love that you mentioned a lot of these goals because I feel, we may have these goals. So some of us may have these goals today. Some of us may think, I can wait for these goals because, I'm too young. Or you may think, it's actually too late. I missed out on this goal and maybe it's too late to start. If you're listening to this episode, make sure you hit pause and write this list of goals, Laura shared with us, because even if you may have not think about some of them. But Laura, what I'd love to do with you now it's try to order these goals. How do I prioritize? That sounds like really overwhelming to work on 10 different goals at the same time with different time frames. So, what should I tackle first, and what do I put on top of my list?
Well, I think there's three things to look at. I think if you categorize them into essential goals, important goals, and aspirational goals. So essential goals, what I actually call essential, saving for your retirement, but also, and more importantly, building an emergency fund and preparing to cover for rising healthcare costs. So that, in essence, for me, is essential goals. Important goals perhaps are less critical, but represent core values. So they may include funding for education, saving for a home, paying down debt again, or leaving a legacy. But then there's those aspirational goals, and that's anything that's merely a nice to have. Let's just say a second home or a massive family trip that you've always wanted to go on. They could be amongst sort of your lowest priorities, but aspirationally, you'd still like to do. So I think three things: essential goals first, prioritise; secondly, important goals; and thirdly, aspirational goals.
And how many goals should be on my list?
So there's no actual figure, but less is more. Less is more is something I always sort of say to people. Think about the things that are really important to you, that you really want to achieve. Because if you've got too many goals, you end up not achieving any of them. So think about the ones within your essential, important and aspirational, and maybe one or two. I don't like to depict the number, but certainly it's important and relevant to the individual. But don't have too many, because you're less likely to achieve.
Yeah, so I love your categories. So, essentials, important and aspirational goals. So if I think about saving for retirement, for example, that's an essential goal, but saving for retirement is such a big goal. How do I sort of, break it down, make it more specific to make sure I actually achieve these goals? Because I know on my goals, I have, save for a holiday or, these very, very big goals that are not very specific. So what should I do with these goals to make sure I'm going to work for them and I'm going to achieve them?
I always use the acronym SMART: specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, relevant and time-bound. And the reason being is because imagine you've set a goal to save money. This goal is vague, so there's actually no way to tell when you're going to achieve it and what you're going to achieve and how. So make your goals specific. And one reason people don't hit their money goals is because generally they're too vague. So it needs to be really specific in terms of being able to, as I said at the start, visualize that goal. Also, make your goal measurable. So let's say, okay, so if your goal is to pay off debt, as an example, what's the debt? How much is the debt and by when? So you're being really specific about the actual goal, but also you're measuring and able to measure what you want to achieve. Always give yourself a deadline. Think about when you want to achieve that specific goal and challenge yourself. Could you actually achieve that goal earlier? If you can really visualize it, could you actually achieve it earlier? So make sure you set a deadline. Make sure also that they're your own goals. Dig deep and really understand what you want. Remember, you asked me, how many goals should I have on my list? And I said, well, I can't actually say the number of goals you should have. They must be pertinent to you and they must be very much owned by you as well. Get a blank piece of paper, write that goal down. Visibility and visualization is the key to making it meaningful, but also the key to making it happening. And also, sometimes it can be lonely. I know we touched upon the fact that go away, sit down, somewhere quiet, have a coffee and perhaps write down your goals. But how about creating a goal buddy that you can very much relate to? You can talk to them about it. You can talk to them about what you've achieved, how you've achieved it, but also the challenges that you faced, and you can talk through those challenges. And I think sometimes it's good to share those goals so that people can actually support you, guide you, but also be with you along that roadmap and along that journey.
Thank you. I love this accountability friend or buddy whom you can share your goals. And definitely, if you have a partner, share your goals. If you work with a financial advisor, I think that's definitely an exercise that you would be doing with them and doing all your planning. And if you don't work with an advisor, how I started to work on my financial goals a few years ago, especially when I look at essentials. We talked about planning for retirement. I've used in the past retirement calculators, for example, online. So they are not perfect, but it would give you an indication of how much money you will need to save in retirement. Because as you say, I love this, smart methodology, and you can definitely have, your goals, write your goals and have these columns, for smart, for each of the letters, and try to quantify your goals. So trying to find out how much money do I need for retirement. Sometimes it's really hard to put in relation how much money you have in your retirement pot, in your pensions, with how much money you will need in retirement. So doing this exercise of, what is the life do I want? You talked about visualizations. People who visualize their retirement tend to save a lot more money than those who, are not specific and don't think about retirement. So visualizing your retirement, Emily, in, 30, 40 years, I want to live maybe in south of France. I want to travel. I want to see my kids. I want to see my grandchildren. How much money do I need for that? Then I can translate that into how much money do I need in my pot. And then these retirement calculators will help me find out how much money do I need to save every month. So that can be quite scary to know your numbers, to see these numbers for the first time. But I think it's been really helpful for me to have these numbers, on paper. Even if, you can't achieve them today, you can at least work towards something. Any other tips, for example, on saving for retirement maybe, or saving for these really big goals that seem unattainable at the moment?
Yeah, I think the first port of call is definitely deciding what you want to achieve. So let's take retirement. What do you want to achieve in retirement? Where do you want to be? Who's involved? How important is that to you? What are the potential implications of not achieving that? And what are the positive implications of achieving that? And that starts to build up your picture. You start to then think about, in terms of what it is you actually want to achieve and where you want to be, who's involved, and the type of lifestyle that you actually want. And then you can start to build up. So how much would I actually need in that retirement? And as we stand today, you can then project that forward. We can use planners to project that forward. It then gives you a guideline in terms of the amount of money at this stage, dependent on your age, what you need to put in on a monthly or an annual basis. And that then we can start to project forward. It's never too early to start planning, and in particular retirement planning. And it's those bite-sized chunks, taking those small steps. And then as your wealth continues to grow and as your career grows, then you have a greater ability then perhaps to pay more into that pension, more into that retirement fund. And you can then start to see that retirement fund coming nearer. You can start to then challenge yourself. You may find that you want to retire at age 60 initially, but then challenge yourself. Why can't I bring that forward 5 years now that I've furthered my career? So I think in summary, it's about really visualizing what you want, understanding how much that's going to cost you, together with who's involved within that, and then working back through that planner as to how much you need to actually put in at this stage.
Yeah, and you raise a very important point here is around flexibility and agility. These goals are not set in stone. They may change and they will change, and you may change goals, maybe not every year, but, every 5 years you can review them. The goals I had 5 years ago are very different from the goals I have today. So, don't worry about, setting these goals and then just working towards this goal. You can always change them.
It's a brilliant point. No goal is set in stone, and there has to be that degree of flexibility. If you think about everyday life, we're flexing and changing all the time. It's an evolutional world that we live in. And it may well be that there are blocks in the road, and it may well be you have to take a payment holiday, or it may well be that you can flex and you want to do something different and you pay more in. But just definitely nothing is set in stone from the outset. Visualization should be, because you know what you want to achieve, but there may be deviation from that roadmap throughout your journey through to retirement.
Yeah, and I see for me, one of the deviation is, leaving the corporate world to set up my business. So I had savings on the side that I use for my business. And it takes time for your business to, to start generating revenue. So you may not pay yourself as much during this time. You may not pay into your retirement pot. You may use a little bit of your emergency fund. So it's thinking about that's okay not to have like a linear path towards, retirement and your goals. But it's, again, reviewing these goals and thinking about, now I'm in this position, how can I improve my financial situation, and reviewing a little bit, where you are.
And that's a classic example, as you've just described, in terms of having that goal buddy, and thinking that, you're still aiming to achieve what you want to achieve, but there may be slight deviations in that journey. And I think it's important to be able to talk that through. In terms of reviewing, I would thoroughly recommend goals are reviewed on an annual basis. And that annual basis might be a move away from what you're doing, It may be an enhancement to what you're doing. But if you review them regularly, they're very much core and at the forefront of your mind and will actually make you ensure that you still think to actually achieve that.
Thank you so much, Laura. And I have one final question for you. We've got new mothers, retired women, teenagers, and a whole bunch of different women at different life stages listening to this show. How do different life stages impact the types of financial goals we should set?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably around about 5 life stages. So initially, you'd have formative stages. So in our early years, 0 to 19, and I think generally that's funded by parents or relatives. And this is probably about saving towards a future need, whether that be education costs, buying a car, or getting your foot on the property ladder. I think then you've got building the foundation. So building the foundation would be between 20 and 29. And again, that's more akin to sort of paying down debt, paying down university debt, building an appropriate emergency fund, and starting to save for them perhaps the medium term. We then move into the accumulation years, and you'll have early accumulation years and you'll have rapid accumulation years. Now, early accumulation years are generally ages 30 to 39. As earnings potentially grow, your career could excel, and you could start to actually look to more things of providing for your future retirement and putting more money away for holidays, cars, lifestyle, because potentially between 30 and 39, you're more likely to have a greater disposable income as your career sort of moves up the scale. Then, as I said, rapid accumulation is between ages of 40 and 54, where perhaps you're thinking about bringing retirement plans forward, helping support adult children, paying down your own family debt, looking at medical care, and any lifestyle or career or changes. And then comes financial independence, ages between 55 and 69. Early retirement, feeling financially secure, actually feeling fantastic that you've achieved that goal that you set yourself out. It's probably about looking at inheritance. It's probably about potentially even downsizing and supporting your family or supporting elderly parents as well. So generally, I think 5 stages, but along each stage, you are going to pivot towards or away from the goals that you're setting.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, I love this framework, and I think it's really good to have it on paper. I'm a big fan of, seeing the timeline, seeing the big picture. But of course, things won't go according to plan. And I think, many of us will not reach, one of these financial independence by age 55 or have this level of flexibilities, and you may still struggling. So remember that this is just, benchmark of framework, but we all have, specific lives, specific challenges, specific issues. So really review your own personal timeline.
Yeah, and also, we have lots of clients sort of in that financial independence age between 55 and 69 who actually want to continue working, and they perhaps want to continue working, but perhaps at a reduced rate in terms of part-time, and they will then have had the fund that they've built up enable them to supplement and support their lifestyle, but they actually really thoroughly thrive and enjoy working as well, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Thank you so much, Laura, for joining me once again on the show. So again, visualization, writing these SMART goals, prioritizing, and thinking about, what's your time frame is really important. Laura, you gave us a lot of pointers, questions that you would ask your clients, and we're going to write them all in our blog article on our website, so you can go back to that and use it almost as a framework to write your own financial goals. This marks our 3rd episode together with Laura and NatWest Premier, and previously we delved into navigating finances in 2024 and breaking the silence around salaries, and you can find the links in the show notes along with our main takeaways from these episodes on Vespa.com. Laura, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. Before you move on to your next listen, copy the link to this episode. We're trying to get financial education to women, but we need your help to do that. If you enjoyed this episode, send the link to a friend who might learn something from it too.